Welcome back to the Outside View Live, the last and final segment of the day, the post-match analysis of the first T20 between South Africa and Pakistan. Now, it seemed to be, I won't say uneventful, but a regulation run chase for South Africa. They completed the chase with 1 over to spare. And a quick look at the scorecard will tell you who actually did it. Lizelle Lee and Tasman Brits up top. They had a great partnership in the power play. Wicketless South Africa, Pakistan were wicketless at that time. And then we have Marzan Cap who comes in, a bit of a dodgy run out situation there. But other than that, I think they all were pretty solid, taking it right till the end. Interesting to notice that each of the batters actually hit 2 fours each. So Tasman Brits, who made her maiden half century, shows you how much they actually ran between the wickets. And looking at the bowling lineup, really, Eman Anwar, the only one with 2 wickets. Sawera mentioned, experience coming into play, and we did see that, but unfortunately, it was not enough to get Pakistan over the line. So quickly diving into our experts, Claire, I'll start with you. You wanted a good clinical run chase. I think you got that.
Yeah, I can't complain. I'm very happy. Brits not sort of going sort of hell for leather in the beginning. They sort of controlled their innings, knocked the ball around, got their eye in. So I was really, really happy with that. And definitely they've worked on lessons from the ODIs and learning to accumulate more singles, nudging the ball around. There was, you've highlighted in the beginning, it was rotation of strike, and South Africa was sort of always cruising on that run chase.
And Sawera, I'll come to you to what can Pakistan do now, because they were completely outplayed in this T20. What do they take from this and say, hey, we need to work on this in the next match? You're on mute.
Yeah. The major thing that they need to do is they need to shuffle their batting order. They need to the things that we spoke about. They need to bring in Nida Dar early on. They need to bring Alia Riaz early on, just to stay in that momentum, because the momentum totally braked when Nahida came in and Nahida slowed the inning. So they need to capitalize on that, because they need to look at the form of these players, and these were the 2 players who were in form in the ODI series as well. So there was this trick that they missed, and they should look forward to it, that in the second T20, they should just think to make them bat at the top. Secondly, I just thought during bowling, during fielding, they weren't that sharp with fielding. We got to see so many lazy attempts, and there were so many chances which they could avail. There were so many run-out chances that they could avail, but they did not avail that. So they need to convert these chances into full chances.
Ananya, I wanted to ask you, so this is the first time that Pakistan has batted in the first innings, and we always talk about how scoreboard plays is sort of a third opponent for a person in the second innings. But is it possible, I'm thinking out loud here, but is it possible that for Pakistan that scoreboard was actually like something that gave them a sense of urgency and a sense of that we have to get this target when the run rate started going up? Because in the first innings, we didn't see too much urgency from their batters, and Alia Riaz came way too late. So is it possible that scoreboard actually gave them incentive to keep scoring faster and faster?
Are you talking from a batting point of view?
Yeah, I mean, do you think that they would have scored better if they batted second?
Look, I think we spoke about this in the mid innings as well. I think they showed like a positive intent with the bat, but I think the issue was that you look at that top order, and you mentioned this with the South African innings, that a lot of runs were scored by running between the wickets. I think South Africa hit only 8 boundaries and Pakistan hit only 9. So I think a lot of the batters up top, I was looking at Muniba Ali, Nahida Khan, Omema Sohail. Of course, Nahida Khan played only 3 balls, but Omema Sohail, Aisha Zafar, and Muniba Ali. I think while they showed a lot of positive intent and they were proactive, changing their guard, trying to go over the top, they also kind of hit the field a lot initially. And they accumulated dot balls. And the issue was that because the boundaries were hard to find, they weren't able to cover that up later. So I think if you look at the top order, I think the 3 of them played around 20 odd dot balls together. And if you look at Tasman Brits, who played over 50 balls herself, she played only like 12 dot balls, if I'm not wrong. So I think that itself shows you how differently they approached the innings. Of course, Tasman Brits South Africa was chasing a relatively low total, and she was able to pace her innings. But I think that's where Pakistan, probably fell behind because they weren't able to cover up with boundaries. So I think that probably added to the pressure. And like we said, Alia, Riaz, and Nida, they're batting as low as they did. It was that much harder for them to accelerate towards the end.
So Alia Riaz, as a captain, we've seen her in this T20. Thoughts on her captaincy, field setting, bowling rotation? Ananya, why don't you give us your thoughts?
Well, I think I was slightly disappointed. I mean, of course, she is stand-in captain, hasn't captained Pakistan before, so I just feel like they went defensive way too early. They opened up the field. There were singles on offer everywhere. I mean, an off spinner was bowling without a mid wicket, and all the batters had to do was tap the ball into that area. And I think that the fields just didn't allow any pressure to build. They gifted South Africa a lot of easy runs, and I'm sure Claire can throw more light on this, but what would you have done differently as a captain to put pressure on South Africa, considering they weren't defending a very high total?
Yeah, I thought they definitely missed a trick in their field placing. Unfortunately, I'm not sure of Leah Riaz's history in terms of captaining even like a domestic team as an example, but yeah, their fielding placements were just far too. Lose that game in sort of 13, 14 overs, 15 overs even, and at least picked up 5 or 6 wickets, because in terms of that there's intent, and I think as a bowling unit and as a team as a whole, you gain a lot of confidence out of that. It was too easy for, we've just spoken about Tasman Brits just being able to knock it around. But Pakistan made it easy for her because there were so many fielders on the boundary. It was easy just to knock it into the gap and trot through for the single. Next minute, you look up at the board and you've already got 20 runs on the board behind your name, and you haven't even really had to work hard. I definitely thought even the fact of putting a slip in for Diana Baig up front, just sort of let them start breathing down your neck a little bit. I mean, the fact that they had the deep mid wicket out, I thought was an absolute sin. You've got to pull it up. And most of the time they had a long off and a long on. Sort of, you have to have a mid on and a mid off in that situation. Say to South African, no, you knock it over the field. Just one leaning edge or a mistimed sort of shot, and you've got an easy catch. And so the summary out of it I'd rather have seen Pakistan sort of, losing the 13th over, but at least have sort of a good couple of wickets that they've sort of got. And then South Africa also has something to think about. South Africa are going to go away going, oh, we won by 8 wickets. And they're going to feel really, really good about it. It was a well-controlled and balanced run chase.
Yeah, Sawera, just adding to that, Pakistan did show intent in the first innings that sort of lacked in the second innings. They were pretty silent on the field as well. What can they really do on the field, like on-field tactics to really up the energy and sort of put the pressure back on South Africa?
Honestly, Alia Riaz being the captain was the main impact that you could see, the silence in the field. Because if I talk about Javeria has that fighting spirit. She's that chirpy kind of a girl who bucks up the team all together. And you've seen that even in the ODIs, you could hear the noise, you could feel the pressure, and at least she built the pressure in the field. But if I talk about Alia, so Alia just missed that trick. I'll totally agree to Ananya and Claire, because Alia could not maybe if the field would have been uptight, she could have thrown some pressure on the South African batters. But the way Brit was batting, she was never uneasy with the field. She could find the gaps easily. It was not that convenient to hit boundaries because the outfield was pretty slow, maybe because of the rain that happened a day before. But other than that, there was no stoppage because of the fielders. The batters were pretty comfortable, and that's the biggest thing, that's the biggest trick that they miss.
Yeah, comfortable is that key word, because once you're comfortable, you're set, and it's hard to then break them out of that comfort zone. So let's just go around the panel really quick and talk about what both the teams can sort of improve going into the second ODI. And Ananya, starting with you, what do you think? I mean, South Africa had a really good run chase. So is there anything that they can improve in any department? But in general, what would you like to see improved going into the next T20?
But I mentioned this in the mid innings break, and while they showed a lot of energy in the field, and I thought their planning was excellent. The way they planned against each batter, they were very specific as to what lengths they wanted to bowl and what fields they set. I thought that was outstanding. But I think that they were slightly sloppy in the field. While they were much better than they were in the ODI series, there are areas that I think they can tighten up on, and so that's definitely something that they will want to work on. I think they could have restricted Pakistan to maybe 115 or 120, but they just gave them maybe 5 to 7 runs extra. So that's definitely something they'll want to work on. But as far as the batting goes, I think Marizanne Kaap will probably want to maybe start sliding her bat in a little more. She's kind of cutting that too close for comfort. I'm really, I mean, I tweeted this and said that you wouldn't associate sloppy running or sloppy anything with Marizanne Kaap. She seems like someone who's just so efficient and does everything, like correct. And to see her kind of just plonk her bat into the crease was, it's a sin, and it's what you don't want little kids to do, but you see international cricketers doing it, so it's kind of hard. But yeah, I think they batted really well. It was a very clinical chase. So I don't think, on this wicket, they could have chased that any better.
I think Marizanne Kaap just did that to prove that she was human. I mean, otherwise she just does everything else perfectly. So now we know that she's human. Claire, from your end, what would you like to see improved into the next T20?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Ananya. I think the fielding of the South African side, although there has been a remarkable improvement from the first and second ODIs, which just actually shows you how bad it was early on in that series. They can definitely step it up. And just, you almost want to have that 12th fielder when you're out there, and that's just the vibe and the hype and that energy that you're putting out there. So that would definitely be an area of improvement. It's very difficult to be critical of a run chase when I don't think they ever sort of had the pressure on them. So I was quite happy with sort of, all of that, the running between the wickets, the fact that they decreased the amount of dot balls that they got. There was much better rotation of strike, the intensity in the running between the wickets, taking out Marizanne Kaap's little malfunction in her sliding of her bat. I thought that was all really good. So South Africa, I think, are going to have to say to themselves, what can they improve in? Because you don't want them to become complacent after a game like that. And I think that is probably the key. It's going to be the mental approach that the South African players are going to have to take into Sunday's game, and sort of say to them, maybe individually, they need to have a strong look at each of them themselves. And that's where they need to make the small improvements. And then as a team, that will sort of lift their game by 10%.
Yeah, I don't think they were tested that close to actually sort of pick out detailed faults in their game. Sawera, just a quick word on Pakistan's team and going into the second ODI. What do you see them? I mean, there are things that they have to improve on. What's one or two of the key aspects that they need to really fix?
There are a lot of things that they need to improve on. First of all, Aisha Naseem, the way she played her knocks, it's exactly what Pakistan is lacking. So, which means that this 16-year-old showed all the veterans how to bat, how to just face the bowlers of South Africa. So they need to learn from this little girl. After that, I think they missed a trick. We spoke about the batting order, and if Muniba was looking good, I believe after Muniba there should have been Alia, Aisha, and then Nida, and then Kainat. So we should focus on that batting order, and we should not just break the momentum. And the biggest loss that I think was Javeria not being available and Nahida playing because of her, in place of her. So in the second T20, I believe Javeria would be available. So this would be a bigger fix, because when Javeria would come back, you'd see a captain coming back in action. So I believe we'll show a better show in the second T20.
Yeah, Javeria was on the commentary for a little bit, and she mentioned that she should be fit and fine for the second ODI.
Yeah.
Just a quick word on their bowling lineup. The pitch seemed to be a little slow today. So do you see them bringing in another spinner possibly for the second T20 as well?
I think they should include one more spinner. I was just looking forward that they might include Uru, but I could not see Uru playing today's match. And Uru is a girl full of potential, and I believe a leg spinner always adds in some positiveness, some X factor, and Pakistan definitely needs that X factor.
And I
Yeah,
just to jump in, I mean, we spoke about this in the T20 series preview as well, that the fact that even though South Africa have two high quality leg spinners in their ranks, I think they've always shown a bit of a weakness against leg spin. And the fact that Aroub is, a complete unknown to them. Yes, they did. I think they played her in the T20 World Cup, but they wouldn't have seen too much footage of her. So for Pakistan to then be able to throw in an unknown into a situation where I think the rest of their bowlers have been seen. I mean, South Africa have played a lot against them. So to throw in an unknown in a series where you're pretty much down and out will probably help them. I mean, you never know how she's going to do, because we saw Aisha Naseem come out today. South Africa had never seen her, and she got a few runs. They didn't test her out with the short ball early, which I was surprised by. But they hadn't seen enough of her to know where she hit the ball, whereas everyone else they had very specific plans to. So I think someone like Aroub, who they haven't seen, will probably help them as well.
And Aisha Naseem, I mean, coming up against Cap and Ismail, she looked really comfortable. She looked absolutely golden on the crease. So we've sort of taken a step back and looked at what they can improve for the second T20. Now let's just come back to the first game. We're wrapping up this outside view segment. We'll end it with a segment called Yay or Nay. We always do this after every game, where three of you can pick a yay moment from the match. I mean, we've spoken about the second innings, but there was a much more eventful first innings that we've kind of forgotten about a little bit. And then obviously pick a nay moment, something you don't want to see again, something that needs to be fixed really quickly. Claire, we can start with you.
Well, I think my yay moment was it was definitely Tasman Brits. She's not young in terms of age, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, but in terms of cricketing age, she is 30. And so I'm really glad to see her come in and make such a big impact, because she really is a talented player, and I think she can contribute a lot over the next couple of years to where South Africa goes. She's got that sort of boom factor up front, and coupled with Lizelle Lee, I think the two of them could be devastating if they got hold of a bowling attack. My name moment, and we have spoken about this, but was that Pakistani batting lineup. I'm still convinced it cost them 15 to 20 runs, and I think if you add 15 or 20 runs onto the 124, you get close to what I was sort of saying would be a competitive score in the beginning, 140. And I think that would have put South Africa under a lot more pressure. So I hope that they make big changes to that batting lineup. I think it was an absolute sin that you had Dar and Riaz coming in at 7 and 8, and they were pretty much your top run scorers for Pakistan in the ODI series.
And Tasman Brits has played a fantastic innings. Now the question is really, you were talking about this earlier, where you want to have, the coach wants to have a problem of plenty, where there's so many good players that you start picking based on tactics and based on strategy. So when Dene comes back in, there's going to be like fights for spots in the 11. How do you see that sort of playing out, in the coming T20s that they're going to play?
I mean, I think it's a fantastic problem to have, and that's where Hilton, you can see he's going with it. You can even see his selection in the third ODI. He's thinking about the big picture the whole time. And absolutely, when Dene comes back, she's proven how good she is at the top of the batting lineup opening up. So now you've got sort of a Lizelle Lee, you've got a Tasman Brits fighting for it, Dene's throwing. So, if someone's also struggling for form, it's easier to fill positions. I would still think it would be quite interesting to see Laura Wolfhard open up the batting. So there are just so many options. Laura could have come in at 3. We had Cup coming in at 3. So it really, really does help that depth, because at the same time, like you saw now, we've got 2 injuries, and we've got Dene out, and now we haven't even thrown in Chloe Tyron into the mix. Now Chloe is in good form, and we know how exciting she can be. So I think it's only a good problem to have. I would be quite exciting if you want to have a little look at the bowlers. Hopefully if we can go up 2-0, or maybe even Hilton wants to sort of spin the dice and see what happens. But we've got a really exciting spinner in Shangasi. She hasn't had an opportunity as well. Give her the opportunity, see how she performs. So there's so much that you can do with the squad. And what's nice to see is the opportunity that the girls are getting. They are stepping up and they're putting up their hands. And that healthy competition within the squad, means that your senior players have to keep pushing hard the whole time. They can never sort of take the foot off the pedal. So I think it's really, really fantastic for the future of South African women's cricket.
And we're hoping to see that sort of competition come up in the Pakistan squad too. Sawera, your yay and nay moment?
First of all, I would like to say, Claire, you guys are lucky, honestly. Such kind of competition that you need to choose and pick and choose whom to play and whom not to. And we have the scarcity. Sadly, we have the scarcity, and we just see few faces who can bat well obviously in the outside conditions. But my yay moment would definitely be Aisha Naseem, the way she played. I believe she should come. She can. Pakistan can use her as floater, and she can even come at top of the order. And my nay moment would be Aisha Zafar fielding. She should improve her fielding, because the way she was throwing it back, it was very, very slow and very lousy from her. So I believe that the fielding should be uptight, because you can save a lot of runs if you field well.
So you spoke about the scarcity within the Pakistan squad, and that you really need to get that healthy competition in. Does it come down to the grassroots and the setup within the country, or does it come down to just the setup within the cricketing system of the top level of Pakistan, and how can they really churn out more players and give them more game time?
Rather, it comes down to the grassroots level, definitely. But if I talk about the setup as well, we have gone through a complete overhauling. If I talk about Pakistan Cricket Board, they've completely overhauled. There were few corporate departments, there were few banks which had their teams, and those teams were playing under those banks' names, under those departments' name. But now we have divided. We just have 3 domestic teams of women. And those 3 teams, they're like a pool of 35 girls, 36 girls, that's it. So this is the pool of the girls that we have right now. So the pool is really, really small that we have, and we have to pick and choose from that. So that's the reason you've seen almost 6-7 new faces in the squad who have never toured to South Africa before. So that's the reason we are totally in an overhauling position, totally in an overhauling process right now.
All right, so that's great insight, and hopefully in the coming months and years we have a consolidated squad that Pakistan can choose from. Ananya, coming to you for your yay and nay moment. A lot of them have been taken up. Let's see if you can try to come up with a couple of new ones. Well, regardless, what are your choices?
So my yay moment involves team pacer Shabnam Ismail's 100th wicket. I love the way she set up Aisha Zafar. I mean, it was just textbook fast bowling, and it was brilliant to watch. My nay moment, I think because I want to be slightly different, I think Pakistan's tactics in the field, the fact that they just opened up the field and allowed South Africa easy runs, I think that's something that they really need to look into and improve on. So yeah, that's my nay moment.
Okay, so we've heard from everyone. My nay moment would be Ananya's tweets jinxing Umaima Sohail.
I didn't jinx her. I just think she looked good.
Well, she got out after that, Ananya. We can't help that. But anyways, I think that's a wrap from this. It was a little shorter segment because the game was pretty straightforward this time around. That's a wrap from this post-match segment of the Outside View Live. The next T20 is on Sunday on 31st January. We'll be back with a pre-match, mid-match, and post-match coverage. So we'll see you then. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Sunday.